The year was 2002, the month of May, and after several months of what was effectively slave labour, working a brutal paper round as a tiny, weak 13-year-old, my brother had saved up enough money to buy a GameCube. Excitedly, we hurried to the local Toys R Us in the back of our parents' car to get the latest piece of electronic entertainment from Nintendo on the release day. We returned home with the GameCube, Super Monkey Ball, Burnout, and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, somehow knowing already that years' worth of enjoyment and obsession awaited us inside this tiny purple cube. A month went by and Super Smash Bros. Melee came out. Our friends slept around on weekends, we arrived at school with bags under our eyes, daydreaming over the next character we might unlock, and we were happy. Then came out Pikmin, and a game I had so thoroughly been anticipating. Magazines building up hype for months upon months came out, and whilst I enjoyed it, I also completed it within days. Smash was fun with friends, but at this point we had exhausted all the single player options. On Sonic Adventure 2 I had S-ranked pretty much every stage and raised an incredibly badass Chow. Burnout and Super Monkey Ball were a bit too hard for me, but my brother had managed to beat them, and thus we were left gameless. And bored, and desperately unhappy. Super Mario Sunshine was still months away, and so, after hours upon hours of nagging and begging, my dad finally relented and agreed to let us go get a new video game. In the store that day, one game captured my eye. Its unique look and the enticing description made me fall immediately in love with its premise, and the game just looked and sounded cool. On that day, our dad would buy us a video game that, unbeknownst to me, would start a lifelong love for a certain Japanese studio. And more importantly, as I learned when researching this video, my love for one artist's creations that have shaped and influenced my own artistic aesthetic throughout my life. The game I am talking about is From Software's Lost Kingdoms. Released in Japan on April the 25th, and later in North America and Europe on I think August the 9th thanks to publishing by Activision, Lost Kingdoms was created to be one of the very first RPGs for the GameCube. Working on a new console with new technology, the small team found the creative difficulties an incredible challenge, and the task that Nintendo had asked of them was proving to be colossal. Make an epic RPG for the next generation.
I'm here live with the new Pokemon trading card game champion.
Now at the time, card battling was all the rage, with Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! And others all having cemented themselves a place in the cultural zeitgeist. With this, the team decided to embrace the themes of card battling and collecting, but to take away the rules and make it instead a strategic, fast-paced and gripping battle for survival. To put you in the role of someone like a summoner from Magic the Gathering, waging into battle with hordes of monsters and spells at your side. This endeavour was met with a mixed reception, and the game garnered some less than positive reviews, with IGN leaving a decidedly negative 5.9 out of 10, citing repetitive music, stiff graphics, average gameplay, trial and error, and random battles as cons. Eurogamer were equally unforgiving, giving the game a 6 out of 10. Two highly respected games journalism sources. At the higher end of the scale, it also received a 33 out of 40 from Famitsu, who I feel embraced its decidedly Japanese take on dark fantasy, its great replayability, and its unique combat mechanics. 17 years later, I just happened to think about it, and wondered whether or not it held up to my own lofty memories. I remember experiencing a dark and rich, mysterious world filled with strange NPCs, terrifying monsters, fantastic lands, and a truly gripping combat system. A deep and well thought out combat system that was fast to pick up and learn, but incredibly hard to master and develop into your own. And a truly phenomenal endgame that kept me playing this game for hours after I finished it. So together, let us journey to the strange land of Argul and discover a game that in many aspects feels like it could be a true spiritual prequel to the Souls series. The game starts up with a painfully dated FMV sequence that shows off the game's hero and several of the creature summons within the game. As a child, this opening blew me away, and coming from the N64 generation of games, which completely lacked pre-rendered cutscenes, I was a bit confused when I started the game properly to be greeted by some fairly clunky visuals. Coming off of the back of Pikmin, the experience was honestly downright ugly. However, the dark opening text scroll had my mind racing. As a young lover of high fantasy novels, this was completely up my street, and so I pushed on. Going back to it now as an adult, the opening stage is weird. It has one fight, barely serves as a tutorial, and is more like an interactive cutscene in some regards, providing mostly exposition beyond all else. The best bit about this level is probably the guards, who, as well as giving some insightful if generic dialogue, make an awesome noise when interacted with. Also, I kinda love the architectural design. Whilst the castle might be a bit empty, the bits of design that are there are really nice and would feel right at home in Lordran. After this, we are shown the selection screen, a beautifully designed interactive map. This is part of where the game differs dramatically from a standard RPG. There is no open world in this game, or even a hub village to explore. Rather, stages are unlocked and made playable from this menu. It's a little bit clunky but serves its purpose, and is visually gorgeous. Honestly, it's elements like this where the game really stands out, the 2D design within it. The artwork for the cards, the menus, even the loading screens are all breathtakingly gorgeous and help to set the scene and mood of the game and really immerse the player within its world of magic. Now, upon researching this game, I found out why. There's a man called Makoto Sato. You might not know his name, but you know his work. Seen this guy before? Or this guy? Or her or him or any of this? Do you like it? Well, you have Makoto to thank. His phenomenal work over the years has shaped the worlds and lore of the Souls games for years now. As lead art director and designer, his work shines through, and in this work of his, old work from over 18 years ago, the themes and stylistic choices of his can clearly be seen. It's dark, it's gothic, the skeletons and the way they move and their bloody cutlasses, the sexy midriff. Any one of these monsters would fit right in a Souls game, or this chick, or her. Pyromancers, I tell ya. The aesthetic and mood that his work brings to these games is incredibly palpable and not to be underestimated. Hidetaki Miyazaki is a phenomenal director, but I don't think it's wrong to say that Dark Souls and Bloodborne would not be the games they are today or have the fan base they have without Makoto Sato and his years of outstanding illustration. And this is where IGN, Eurogamer and so many others completely missed the mark when reviewing this game. They were so obsessed with the idea of next-gen graphics and that an RPG just had to be a Final Fantasy killer that they were completely blinded to the artistic brilliance within this game. The sheer aesthetic charm of the visuals. Nothing changes, eh? Anyway, from here on out we're introduced to the bulk of the main game. You battle your way through a variety of different stages, fighting monsters and solving puzzles mixed in with very light exploration for more loot and rewards. The battles play out in random encounters that end up playing out almost like real-time Pokemon battles, with your moves and attacks being the cards in your deck. With 30 available slots, the opportunity for variety and exploring strategy is surprisingly deep. The game features over 100 cards to experiment with and allows for an unlimited number of doubles within a deck, so if you happen to find a particular favourite, it's possible to have fun spamming away and just fill your deck with 30 of that card. I tend to play it almost like Hearthstone, allowing myself only 2 of any card in my decks. Personally, I enjoy the random nature and the added level of challenge. With 4 different elements that work in a rock paper scissors sort of manner, and a 5th neutral element, there is plenty of reason to customise and switch up your deck on every stage. The cards are further broken down into 3 types: weapon cards that cause a monster to instantly fly from your palm and strike out at a foe, independent cards that turn you into a full-blown Pokemon master, throwing out monsters to do your bidding and roam the arena attacking your foes. Whilst the AI is painful at times, these cards can prove lethally effective and amusing to watch the fights go down. The third and final type are the summon cards, that momentarily turn you into an epic monster in order to perform a single devastating attack. These are all awesome and epic to watch the first few times, but unarguably the unstoppable cutscenes that play out every single time quickly start to grate. This huge amount of choice in how you approach fights keeps them exciting and dramatic throughout the game, especially during some of the more epic boss battles. Using these cards relies on magic crystals that are acquired through damaging enemies and destroying objects in the environment. In the very likely event that you run out of crystals, you can still use your cards, but they cost you your life points instead, creating a dynamic flow in some of the harder fights where you attempt to land cheap shots using low cost cards in order to build up crystals and score a big hit later with a more powerful card. Finally, a capture mechanic allows for you to throw a card out like a Pokeball and capture a monster. This only works when the monster is on very low health. I only found success on 1 HP personally, and never works on bosses sadly. The level design itself is a bit bland. Large empty areas with little to do in them other than run from point A to B, sometimes with a puzzle in between. Rare cards can be found hidden throughout these stages, but some can prove incredibly frustrating to get. Sometimes breakable boxes or trees will hide a card from you. These need to be destroyed in combat, as you are unable to use cards when out of a fight. The issue here being that the game relies on random encounters. This led to more than one occasion where my desire to collect things caused me to need to run around in circles for minutes on end, waiting for a random encounter to happen. On a more positive light, certain stages have incredibly unique elements to them. An impressive stained glass effect lends a haunting atmosphere to a cathedral. Lava spikes jut and glow in a volcano, and this bridge here is a particular favourite of mine. Look at the little unicorn heads. But overall, the levels certainly feel rushed compared to every other element in this game. The camera in this game is sadly pure jank. It's locked to 4 angles and moves weirdly, but I forgive it. Having a second analog stick was some new ass shit, and games were still working out what to do with cameras at this point. It can sometimes lead you to taking damage and having no idea why, but it's fine. The difficulty in the game feels fairly consistent, with some enemies really capable of catching you off guard and bringing up the game's version of the game over screen. You failed. However, when hunting through a stage for every hidden secret, I often found myself reaching the boss at the end of the stage without enough cards remaining in my deck to actually defeat them, forcing me to die and then speed through the level to the end. I guess one weird advantage of this is that the game doesn't allow you to revisit stages until you've beaten the final boss, so this did allow for a little bit of extra grinding for those level ups. Upon beating a stage, you were given a rank based upon the damage you took, the cards you used, and the amount of time it took. After this, you then have the chance to pick a reward, the number of which is determined by your rank. Annoyingly, on my playthrough here, I failed to get any of the good rewards. As some of the best cards in the game can only be got this way, you can be forced to replay certain levels over and over on the pursuit of 100% completion. The way the RPG mechanics work in this game are a little bit different. Rather than gaining experience and leveling up your character, instead you gain experience points for the individual cards you use. These can then be upgraded and transformed into different cards, or cloned for bolstering your deck. Some of the most powerful cards in the game can only be acquired this way, and the transformation sequence itself is pretty dang cool. Your character herself does level up throughout the game, but only after specific boss fights. In the process, increasing her HP, magic crystals, and resistance to status effects such as Curse and Petrification. Upon beating the story of the game, you have the chance to replay levels and start filling up your inventory. You can also gain access to 4 more stages with incredibly hard bosses. These monsters are epic god tier cards that pretty much break the game, but they're really fun to use and an awesome reward for beating everything. The final thing to do in this game is collecting red fairies. These magical creatures hide throughout the game, hidden in wells and tree stumps. Collecting these little dudes rewards you with powerful cards, and most importantly the majority of the story and lore hidden within this game. With 100 of these funky fellows to find, it adds even more replayability to the game, and this leads me handily onto the most important thing, the story. The interactable loading screens, why don't more games do this? It's not much, but my god, just wiggling this thing around and having fucking beautiful artwork to look at makes the loading screen go by so much quicker. The story. On the face of it, the story is simple and a little bit boring, and again, something that caused the game to receive negative reviews. The lack of cinematic cutscenes was unforgivable at the time. If you were to only follow the story that is told during the main moments of dialogue and cutscenes, then yeah, it's boring. An evil man called the Enchanter wants to take over the world with magic stones and is spreading an evil black fog filled with monsters across the land. It's your quest to stop him with the power of 5 magic runestones. However, the lore and depth of this world is explored through the descriptions of the monsters themselves, which are lovingly fleshed out in an incredibly detailed inventory. Further snippets are also found through conversations held with fairies and far more. There's plenty in this game for a Prepare to Cry series from the main man Vati Vidya. Tales of honour, valour and desperation, and mysterious characters that simply beg for analysis. At the start of your quest, the strange woman Gerd joins you. She knows all about the Enchanter, his magic and the power of the cards and the runestones that you are collecting. As well as providing exposition and leading you throughout your journey, she also runs a shop selling these useful base cards and providing the upgrade service. Occasionally, she'll also provide you with a bit of extra dialogue that will open up a few bonus side quests. Alexander, a goofy scholar, is found early in the game and is studying the red fairies. As you bring these to him, as well as rewarding you with cards, he also begins to unlock the mystery of the red fairies. As quite strangely, they appear to combine and start to form giant red fairies when together. Seeing these guys bounce around inside his house and watching the collection grow throughout the game is satisfyingly rewarding by itself. You spend the majority of the game chasing after your father, the king, who is left to go and stop the spread of the black fog. As you struggle to catch up to him, you explore the growing ruins of what was once a prospering kingdom. Upon finally reaching him, the guy's a fucking OG badass. Look at that sword, that armor. Damn son, man is fine. Only to watch him get struck down and slain before your eyes. Your main enemy throughout the game, and top tier triple S rank waifu, is a young woman named Helena, who it seems at the start is the one responsible for the Black Fog. Upon eventually defeating her in a rather epic boss battle, it's tragically revealed that she too is a princess from a distant land, and she was merely trying to stop the Enchanter from destroying her own country. the feels. Overall, the story is certainly a bit rushed, but the hidden lore and incredible atmosphere in this game carry it for me. I guess I love games that force me to read and do the studying myself to understand the context and weight of events within it. Much like a Souls game or a good book, it lets you use your imagination to fill in the gaps and expand the fiction and fantasy of the universe. The music. The music in this game is a bit different. The composer's body of work is Armored Core, pretty much nothing else, just Armored Core and this. And it's not bad, but it does get repetitive. Certain tunes in the game really stand out to me and have stuck in my memory for years, but it can be repetitive. It fits the individual atmosphere and mood of each area, but it can be very repetitive. The battle music is pumping and gets you really hyped at first and has this amazingly awesome bass line to it, but after many boss fights it can start to get a little repetitive. The boss battle music is epic but has quite a short loop and so can start to feel repetitive. Do you get the theme here? It's a little bit repetitive. Multiplayer. It's weirdly good. It can be completely terrible, but if you and your friend establish some limits to which cards you'll use, ergo only weapon cards, 4 couples each, no god cards, then it can be quite a lot of fun and quite a tactical fight, all about using iframes and attack windows, conserving stamina, and physical positioning erupts in a flurry of sweaty controllers and blistered thumbs. As you use your own save data to create a deck for the multiplayer, it is limited to your own progress within the game, but with the right save data, this game can be an absolute blast. Leave summoning cards on and get prepared for a painful slow mess. Save data menu screen. I miss this screen so much. GameCubes and the attention to detail most of these games had was just nice. Look at this cute wink. Ah yeah. In fact, she's not the only waifu winking at me on this screen. Best save data screen ever. Closing thoughts. This game is fun. I didn't know how much I'd enjoy replaying it, but blasting through it over the course of 8 hours to make this video was an amazing time. I was trying to play quickly, and yet I often found myself backtracking and hunting away for more cards and more red fairies. I failed missions and had to rethink my strategies, reworking decks and my approach at every single turn. I was engrossed again within the lore of this world, and after beating the final boss had to actually tear myself away from it to start producing and working on this video. I'd only found 80 cards for Christ's sakes, there were still more than 20 to find. They're all fun to use, they're all imaginative, they're all creative. I wanted to work out more strategies and do more things. I just learnt of this crazy game-breaking strat where you can only have 4 cards in your deck and literally win every fight instantly with just these 4 cards. It's hysterical. Combat mechanics, they're so slick, the way the frame rate just never drops, it actually feels truly like an action game when you're playing it. And once you know the layout of the levels, it's because it is ultimately actually quite a short game to try and speed run through it, it can be a real joy to speed run through. And something else, during a time when video games were made pretty much exclusively for young boys, and they always featured butch, muscly, macho men, this game starred a small, defenseless girl. She fought with courage and wits, not with swords and shields. She fought against another, equally powerful and terrifying woman. She watched and tried to help as big, tough armies with swords and shields fell before this onslaught of monsters. This game was subversive. It was different. It made an effort. It was quite simply years ahead of anything else I'd played at the time, if not in terms of visuals, but in sense of mechanics and underlying storytelling themes. Play this game, guys. If you were lucky enough to own a copy of it, whack it in your GameCube, whack it in your Wii, give it a play. If you can find a copy for less than $80 online, then buy it. And if you can't, then definitely don't emulate it. That would be a bad thing to do. and then play the sequel. You see, there's a Lost Kingdoms 2. It came out a year later, and it expanded on the themes, ideas, mechanics, and every single idea and element within this game in every single shape, way, and form. And as far as my memory is concerned, is pretty much the perfect sequel. One of the best sequels to a game ever made. It features another badass chick, deeper combat mechanics, a better story, more than 100 new cards, making for over 200 cards in that game. It's just awesome. It even has a moonlight greatsword in it. You can bet I'm covering that next. Thank you for watching. This is by far the longest thing I've written since I was at school, and it was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this and would like to see me do more stuff like this, then let me know. I would also love to know if you have played this game and what you thought of it. Are my views too clouded with rose-tinted glasses? Maybe. Whatever the case, drop me a comment. I always reply, and please go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you want to see more of my stuff. Again, thank you for watching. I was a very British drug addict. Peace!